Don't be lazy. It's important for a man to have boundaries. I came here to deliver my consciousness to the planet.
There he is, the man, Elliot Hulse. How you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
Good. If you guys don't know Elliot Hulse, man, I don't know. How do we describe Elliot Hulse? Like is a philosopher. He's an entrepreneur. He's teaching men to be men. He's the strength God. I don't know. How would you describe yourself, man? There's so many things.
You're doing great.
That's a good start.
Yeah, keep going.
Cool, man. Well, let's dive in, because you were one of the first. Like when I was on YouTube, you were spitting fire, and you just got started. You had your camera in your gym, and just spitting into the camera and getting tons of traction and motivation and really inspiring a lot of people. And then you took the break, and now you're back in different ways. What's the mission you're on, man? Like why manliness? Why strength? Like what does it mean to you, and what do you hope to accomplish?
Well, simply put, it's who I am, and it's why I'm here. And I came here to deliver my consciousness to the planet. So where I'm at, I truly believe is where man is at. And so by sharing myself authentically and really being self-centered, meaning what am I into, I put that into the world, and I see who's going to resonate with it and who's going to grow from it, be it strength training or manliness. You know, some of the things I've been talking about lately, you know, being a good husband and father. You know, these are things that are important to me in my life right now.
What do you think people are missing? Like when you talk to guys, what are they missing? What are you teaching them?
One of the things that's missing is a connect to their masculinity, i.e. their father and the eternal father, God. I think the destruction and breakdown of religion has been devastating for men in particular, and having meaning in our life. I also, that inability to reach the Father comes because of a deep attachment to feminism, but the mother. You know, we're mama's boys, and our ancestors understood that it was important for a young man at some point in his life to separate from the mother. This is the way they would describe it when a boy needed to be initiated: separation from the mother, and then atonement with the father, as it was described by, I think, Joseph Campbell. So it's this movement away from inappropriate femininity, and we're exhibiting a lot of inappropriate femininity as men. We've been conditioned this way, and there's an agenda, I believe. And really know what it is to connect to our masculine pattern, and that word pattern is the root word of paternity, which, you know, means father pattern, and live the right way and be good, strong alpha men.
So what's our step? What do you recommend as a starting point for people? They like to hear you to say, man, I love that. Okay.
Yeah, it's separation from the mother, atonement with the father, in its practical, physical form, and its metaphysical form, because man also lives by ideals.
What do we do? What do guys do that we're too attached right now?
Well, in its myriad of different forms, this over-feminization of men has taken the form of, one thing is putting on the pedestal with regard to women. And, you know, I dated my wife in high school. And so I didn't do too much dating out there, and I basically instantly put her pussy on the pedestal. I read some of the love letters I wrote her when I was 14 years old, and we've been together ever since. So I haven't been in the dating world, but I speak to lots of young men, and they tell me, you know, about what's going on in their lives with regard to, you know, the way they relate to women. And they behave in a very beta fashion, a very weak way with women. And a big part of it has to do with in my assessment, has to do with the fact that they've got vaginas, and we want that. And so, ladies first. And that's in the way that it's showing up in our world today. It's detrimental to the natural order of things, and it's confusing men, and women are not happy either.
So what do you think that you do on a daily basis in your relationships and how you conduct yourself that a lot of people would look at and say, that's really wild?
Well, on the same topic, for example, I married my high school girlfriend. You know, I was practically a virgin, both of us, when we got together and stayed together. And I'm a devoted father and husband. That's radical in today's
Mm.
day. You know, you look at that, that doesn't happen very often, especially to have the type of strong relationship that we have. And I know that has a lot, I got here unconsciously, but now that I'm conscious, I see why it worked.
And thinking about lessons from your father, I mean, I guess either the two fathers,
Hmm.
what's something that you try to remind yourself of, at least on a weekly basis, that I need to stay steadfast on these things?
Well, my father, amongst the myriad of wisdom that he offers me, just asserts, take care of your family.
Mm.
And, you know, I've come to the assertion that when a man is having sex with a woman, she becomes your wife right then and there. You don't need to have a ritual. You don't need anyone's authority. But I do believe when you take a woman and you start having sex with her, you now become her protector. You become responsible to her. With that mindset, we would take a lot of different behavior. We would behave very differently as it relates to our promiscuity and our willingness to, you know, sleep around. I don't remember the conversation because I got off on I don't remember the question because I got off on a tangent conversation.
I
But
love it, man. It was
yeah,
lessons from either the two fathers
yeah,
that
my
you try
father.
to
Yeah, take care of
remember.
your family. Yeah, take care of your
Yeah.
woman. Take care of your family. That's a simple one, and there's a lot there are a lot of angles to that also too. And so, you know, rather than going down that avenue, another great one that is from my father is get up every day and do what you have to do, whether you feel like it or not, which is
Mm.
the key at the end. Do what you have
Right.
to do every day, and you'll be fine. This is my father doesn't plan for anything. It's incredible. He doesn't plan. He just, listen, man, he tells me, you just do what you have to do each day, and everything's going to be okay. It's just going to unfold the way it's supposed to. Have trust in God, but get up every day and do what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to, Brian Tracy say, eat that frog. Do the things you don't want to do because that you know are high yield things as a husband and a father, and as a self-reliant man, which I say an entrepreneur is. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
get to take back our power in that way in this day in a way that hasn't been seen, and it's wonderful. So don't be lazy.
When you wake up and you step into the gym to then go build your muscles, is there an equivalent in your life? Like you're thinking, I'm going to the gym of life to remind myself of these things that you're talking about, the philosophies?
Well, I like that as an analogy because the same principles that work in the gym are the principles that work in life. And in gym, if you want to do really well, you get a coach and you get instruction.
Mm.
And you follow through and you take action and you pay attention and you evolve and you grow, right? I mean, those are all great things for life.
So, I mean, you've had your dad, and he came from crazy, insane hardships compared to what most people have to go through. If somebody, maybe they don't have a dad, or they don't have
Mhm.
a male role model that inspires them, so I guess they can go to their other father, but who's the coach? How do I find my coach? Where do I go? How do I reach out? What am I looking for?
Well, I just had this conversation with Troy Casey. I was on live with him just now. And I've been thinking a lot about this also, too. And knowing that it's important for a man to have a pattern, a paternity, a father to pattern himself after and to look up to is very important. I found that there may be great value in the religious tradition of deifying a Christed self, having a deity. And this is where religion is very stabilizing, grounding for men. And somebody's writing Allah, 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 Allah. I don't know if they're saying that, but also if you look at Muslim men who are disciplined, they say they're on their deen. They're praying 5 times a day. The amount of discipline that's associated with the devotion to that deity builds character and makes you a man and gives you an example to live after. So with that being said, a man that doesn't have a father also has the example of Christ or the Christ itself or the greatest example of a human being. that, or of a man in particular. And whether or not, whatever your religious persuasion or your hang up with religion or Christianity, I love them all. But just this sentiment that there is a perfect man that we can look to in our times of weakness for strength, and also to know that he is under the authority of God the Father, the real Father, the true Father, our eternal pattern, is very comforting. And that's not to say that men are weak because they need comforting. We do need the comfort of a pattern, a father, an established pattern, and something to aspire to.
Do you see that as your role now as well? Like you're becoming another father or father figure or pattern to model after with the content you're making. People may never meet you in person, but they're getting wisdom or advice or strategies from what you're doing?
Yes.
It's a heavy responsibility.
I'm a father.
So you're the father for the world now.
Thus, the example of the father. Well, you know, we live in a time where we're very interconnected. The internet, obviously. And like you asked me before, what I'm doing is just putting myself out there. And the truth is that I had a great father. I still have a great father. I am a humble father, meaning learning how to be a father, doing the best that I can in this world, given the circumstances. And if I'm delivering my consciousness to the planet, then it only makes sense that I'm going to be seen as a father. And for the past decade that I've been making YouTube videos, regardless of what my overt stance was, I always got the feedback that, Elliot, you're like the father I never had. And so, you know, a lot of times it's like with our mission in life, it's like, do we choose our mission or is it handed to us, delivered to us? And are we willing to grab that scepter and stand in that place? And so most recently, I'd say this year, for me in particular, I have really firmly grounded myself in the archetype of father.
What caused that shift?
Some might call it a midlife crisis, but I was only 36. And so it was a process of healing. It was a process of understanding myself. I like to say also holding rather than healing, a coming together of parts of myself that were divergent and I cast into the shadow and didn't understand. And, you know, it was colored by my relationship to the feminine, my own personal relationship to my own inner feminine, and how I related to women. Remember, I only had one woman my whole life.
Right.
And, you know, so that also comes with its shadows, if you will. And so I got to take a good look at myself as a man and what it means to be a man. And one of my mentors said, Elliot, you'll never be fully man until you become a woman. And I've learned to understand what that means. And then also to the devotion to the life I've chosen as a husband, taking a wife and being a father. What am I really here? What am I doing here? Remember I said the first piece of advice my dad gave me was take care of your family. You're and that's not to say that things happen and that you can't be born again, because that's Christ's message also too. Hey, look, but you also have another chance.
Right.
But what good am I taking a woman, becoming a husband, being a father, and fracturing that pattern, doing a poor job at it, not being my strongest self? So, you know, I've had a lot of self-exploration and self-authority that has come over me these past few years.
So the idea of letting go of the feminine, I think people would look at you and look at what you've been putting out for the past, I mean, you're OG on YouTube, man. And they would say, well, this guy seems to already be the man, macho man, you know, always alpha. So I'm curious, like in the past year, what did you have to let go of that turned you into this?
Well, I just got off the phone with Troy Casey, and he described it as fake feminism. I call it radical feminism. Remember I talked about our relationship to our mother being key? The roots of this feminine comes to an inappropriate relationship to our mothers to begin with. But the way it shows up in a man's life has a lot, I mentioned also too, putting on the pedestal, has a lot to do with relinquishing our authority and responsibility as men to our women. And that disrupts a natural order that is evident in our world today, where easy divorce has made separation rampant, and men and women aren't generally happy with one another. It goes both ways. This feminism has created a angst and unrest in women, where they cannot relax in their femininity and be the nurturing, healing mothers, womans that they're meant to be, and instead compete with men. And so you got a bunch of beta men and misled, confused, and angry women.
I'm super curious how your wife has evolved like all these years, right? I mean, it's been since high school. She's seen multiple versions of you and your evolution. Where is she at now, and how has she evolved over these years?
She's right there alongside with me every step of the way, ever since the beginning. And she trusts me. And sometimes I go in seemingly weird directions, and she follows me. She may voice her opinion, and she may voice her disapproval, but then she follows right along with me. And I know I'm a good man, and she knows I'm a good man, and that ultimately it's going to work out well, and it is. We've been together 25 years. We've been dating. We were 14 years old. We've been married. I don't remember numbers so well, but maybe my daughter is 15. We have a 15-year-old daughter. We have a 12-year-old daughter, a 14-year-old daughter, a 12-year-old daughter, a 10-year-old daughter, and an 8-year-old son. We've been married so over 15 years. And our love and her respect for me is stronger now than I would say it has ever been.
And with 3 daughters and a son, what wisdom or guidance would you give your daughters in growing up? I mean, 15, preparing them to get into the world and be on their own. What's the advice for young women who might be watching this that you're giving your daughters too?
Well, one of the shadows that we that are there and that are a mere reflection of ourselves is our relationship to our children too, being a father. And so, when I saw that it was important for me to step in as a father, the first thing that a father does is set boundaries to protect his family. My father has a literal fence around his house. And that's why I support Donald Trump building a wall. It's important for a man to have boundaries, to protect and to nurture, to grow. A garden doesn't grow unless it's walled. You need a walled garden. And that's what my father created. And I know that, even though I wrestled with it, especially having 3 girls, that to be a good father means to set good boundaries. And so I began just making it very clear to my children, I can't force them, that I think there are some boundaries that are good ideas for their well-being to abide by. And so you may be wondering what some of those boundaries are.
Sure.
Right? And so I don't believe it's good to be promiscuous for men, like I mentioned before, but definitely not for young women in this day. So sex before marriage, I don't think is a good idea. I have lots of ideas on marriage also too, because I'm quite a bit of a rebel. I don't see it like I don't know if I said it to you or I said this to someone earlier today, but when you're having sex with a woman, you're married. Commitment, devotion. That's what a good man does. So don't put you where you don't want to be for the next chapter of your life, several chapters of your life. But I also too, in that, even more so, think that it's a good idea for a woman to maintain her chastity until she is with someone that she knows, likes, and trusts. And not just while she's ovulating. Ovulating, they're all, excited and, they want that man. I know I have daughters, I have a wife, I understand women. And not when they're, feeling gooey because they're on their period or on birth control. Birth control makes women unaware in a way because they have more oxytocin. The body thinks they're pregnant, And so they behave in a way that's more, they want more betas. They want weak men. They want soft men. Birth control pills makes women accept soft men. Dating, like they did in the olden days, which, you know, I'm not familiar with. I met my wife, we started screwing and loving. That was it. It doesn't work out that way for most people. I don't expect that it would work out that way for all my children. But get to know that person before you start juking.
I'm curious. I mean, you met your wife while you were in high school. Your daughter's in high school. How are you dealing with your daughter dating or potentially dating? How is that working out? Like, I'm just curious in that relationship. How are you evolving now as a father of a daughter who's going to be dating guys?
Well, the first boundary that's set is that there's no dating before age 16. So any dating that they do before age 16 is behind our back, because I've set that boundary. And, you know, when you ask about when they are dating, well, you know, I have some ideas, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. You know, I'm not there yet because my children aren't dating.
What advice would you give then to men who, like, they have daughters and they're worried about it?
Do what I do. I'm delivering my consciousness. Take it up or not. That's where I stand.
Cool, man. Listen, interesting dive into the world of Elliot Hulse. I appreciate you making the time. For people who want to figure out more about you, dive in your world, you can follow you on Instagram, YouTube. But what's the next thing you're doing, or where do you want people to go and sign up for next or dive deeper?
Well, if you want to hear my big mouth, I've been on Instagram quite a bit lately. Chiming. And I like this live, so I might be doing more stories in live, you know. I'm big on YouTube, so you can go on YouTube and you can Google, you know, look my name up, but I've got millions of followers on my YouTube channels, which I created distance for myself and a part of my initiation. And so, you know, I'm thinking about uploading again soon, but I don't upload as much as I once did. And then as far as gifts that I'm offering to the world, one of the great things that I'm doing right now is Grounding Camp. And Grounding Camp is evolving into almost a rites of passage, but definitely an initiation process for young men into, and I say young men, but all men, into new life cycles or phases in our lives. You know, and we know that we're being called to the new hero's journey, and we're called to action when shit seems to be hitting the fan, or we're at a loss. We don't know who we are, where we're going, what we're doing. And from my experience, not only as a man in this world, but as a mentor, there's a lot of that. And so I hope to create a space for that.
Cool. Well, thank you for the time, and for the YouTube audience, we'll link that stuff up in the description as well if you want to dive deeper into Elliot's world. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for making some time today.
You got it, brother. Thank you for having me on.
All right, much love.
If you want another awesome video in our Black Excellence series, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.